2026 marks the 30-year anniversary of Pokemon, and with that, we can expect a TCG set to follow, according to the last two anniversaries receiving special treatment with generations and celebrations. So knowing that old cards will see reprints once again, I wanted to share my list of the top 15 cards I would like to see. I have some criteria I want to follow with this list. Number 1. The Pokemon or trainer must represent their generation. Otherwise, there would be too many early gen mons hogging all the spotlight. However, remakes featured in a generation will be taken into account, such as Hoenn mons in the XY era because of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire's release. Number 2. I will try to represent as many of the gimmicks as possible. I do not play the TCG, but I know the history of the competition is still important, and while I don't know what every meta card was from every era, at least I can do is include the cards that feature gimmicks from each era. And lastly, number 3. No already reprinted cards. I'm looking at you, base set starters. But before we begin, I want to go through some honorable mentions. The Dark Celebi from Hidden Legends is nostalgic to me because I had it as a kid. I remember it fondly because I connected it to the movie Pokemon Forever, because it also had a Dark Celebi, although they aren't connected. But apart from personal bias, this card was excluded for 2 reasons. Celebi is from Generation 2, and this card is from Gen 3, and I already have another Dark variant card in this list. I think the Melodic from Supreme Victors is gorgeous. However, similar to Celebi, it is a Gen 3 mon in a Gen 4 set, and there is already a card in this list that represents shiny Pokemon. The Corals from Plasma Storm was shortlisted because the recent Black Bolt and White Flare sets neglected the sequel games, which were Corals' first appearance. However, there were more important Pokemon that I chose instead. And for the last honorable mention, the Terapagos EX Special Illustration Rare from Stellar Crown makes a good case representing the Terra gimmick being the mon of origin for said gimmick, but I believe there's a Pokemon that has a more interesting use of terrestrialization. Alright, let's begin with the actual list. With the base set starter trio being vetoed, there's still a lot of cards from Generation 1, so my pick goes to Dark Charizard. Now I know it's still Charizard, and I have as much Charizard fatigue as the next guy, but he is the second poster child of the franchise, and I personally love the use of Heavy Shadows in all the Dark cards. Seeing as we got Gyarados last anniversary, I think it's okay to pick Charizard this time round. Umbreon gets too much love, so I wanted to show some love to the underrated sibling, so I picked the Espeon from Neo Discovery. There's no particular gimmick to this card, I just think it's really pretty, and there should always be some cute cards in these sets. Celebrations gave us the Umbreon Gold Star, but because I'm trying to keep each generation's card parallel to a mon from the games, there's plenty of Hoenn Gold cards to choose from. I couldn't pick from any of the trios as that's too many cards, and the Rayquaza is really cool, but I personally like the shiny Metagross Gold Star from Delta Species more. Celebrations also reprinted 2 level X cards, those being Luxray and Garchomp. However, while researching the old sets, I found a few cards with a unique holo pattern, those being the Rotom cards from Rising Rivals. Because I am just picking one, I'm leaning towards Rotom Heat because we need to fill a quota for something playful or a bit goofy. I'm very surprised none of the Legends cards were ever reprinted for the anniversary sets. Not only is the art being spread over multiple cards always a cool idea, the exaggerated style of these cards makes them extremely memorable, but with so many to choose from, I think going with the Ho-Oh and Lugia is the simplest and best choice. Seeing as we got a lot of love for Gen 5 last year with the release of Black Bolt and White Flare, every mon from that gen got some love with their own individual illustration rare. However, all the alternate forms introduced in Black and White 2 were excluded, so the choice to select Black and White Kyurem EX from Boundaries Crossed seemed like a no-brainer. With the current set of Pokemon cards focused around Kalos with the latest release of Legends ZA, it was difficult to pick a card that wouldn't feel oversaturated if it was reprinted with today's modern sets. Seeing as I haven't picked any trainers yet, I settled on AZ from Phantom Forces. We will most likely see an AZ card printed this year, so reprinting his old design will differentiate the two. I love the Team Magma's Groudon EX and Team Aqua's Kyogre EX from Double Crisis, both filled with a bunch of representation from their respective teams with the admins and their Pokemon. I was originally thinking of including the Primal Groudon Kyogre from Ancient Origins instead, but similar to AZ, we will probably see these primal forms printed in a set in the next year or so. I think the Solgaleo and Lunala GX is a perfect card to reprint for the anniversary set. It includes Lily and the main legendaries, all super important to the story of Sun and Moon. Not only that, but it also features the tag team gimmick of that era. For the Sword and Shield era, I picked the Inteleon VMAX alternate art from Fusion Strike. This one was a tough pick, I'm not big on the Gigantamax gimmick from the games that was translated into VMAX for the TCG. A lot of the better looking and iconic alternate arts like the Umbreon and the Gengar belong to Pokemon outside of Generation 8, so I thought Inteleon would be a solid pick as it's a starter Pokemon. However, if I could squeeze one more card into this list, I would have chosen both Urshifu cards from Brilliant Stars' trainer gallery. Next is an Emrys V from Lost Origin, as it kills multiple birds with one stone. It has a Hisuian and features Kojita. Seeing as this list lacks trainers, I thought picking a card from one of the trainer gallery subsets would be a good choice. Not only that, but this card features the V gimmick from that generation as well. With the gimmick of Terastallization also being present in the TCG, I feel obligated to pick a Terra card, even though there are so many gorgeous illustration rares from the Scarlet and Violet era. I also think most of the Terra, full art, and special illustration rares sacrifice the style and composition of the art to cram in the stained glass effect. While there are some gorgeous ones, I think the two Pokemon from Gen 9 it looks good on are those designed with the gimmick in mind. I had Terapagos in the honorable mentions, so that leaves any of the Ogerpon Mask special illustration rares from Twilight Masquerade, but if I'm picking one, most likely it would be the Teal Mask. So those are the 15 cards I would like to see reprinted for this year's anniversary. Leave a comment and tell me any cards you would like to see. I appreciate your time, subscribe, and I'll see you later.